This episode of The Game Biz is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audio book, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to The Game Biz, episode 16. I'm Gary Gannon, you're watching GameBreaker TV. It's been a little while. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, all that good stuff. We're back. Joining me, as always, Mr. Monty Sharma. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Gary. How are you?
Good.
Did I just notice you're wearing Eve 66 degrees north
Do
fleece?
you remember this? This thing is ancient. This shows
I
how I don't
remember it. You're in freaking LA. What are you doing with that?
It's cold in here. I know this thing
You're
is
in LA in a house with all sorts of heat sources. Unbelievable.
We got these years ago. Eve Online. Yeah, this thing is warm too, but it's been chilly in the studio. I don't know why. So
all right.
Pulled it out of the closet. That's so funny that you noticed that. It is. That was one of the first times I think we ever really hung out.
Yeah. So that was after that first GDC.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you and Ryan did the show from the bus stop.
From a bus stop in the middle of a hailstorm. In Iceland. Yeah, it was good. Those were good times.
Good.
Got to do that again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're back. I should let everybody know, you guys, if you missed for some reason, because I know with the holidays and stuff and some scheduling changes with the Game Biz, people may have missed the last episode of the show, episode 15. And I have to say, if you've not seen it, go back and watch it, because we didn't do it live. It was an interview with Michael Dornbrook, who has such a rich history and tells such a fantastic story about Guitar Hero. I found it fascinating. Like it was such a good story. So go watch it. Really great episode.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We'll have him on again.
We definitely will. All right, so first up, this one, Aaron Reinhardt. He says, next-gen consoles are here. Mobile games and PC games are thriving. What does the future hold for Nintendo and Wii U? Lots of crazy news coming out about Nintendo and Wii U. Even just today, I think they put out a statement saying that they're focusing on the tablet and smartphone market to try and pick up this Wii U debacle.
This is the sort of thing of companies who make the tragic hardware mistakes end up becoming software companies. I mean, look what happened to Sega. They go through the whole Dreamcast thing and then, all right, forget it. We're not going to do that. Now, it's a little scary for Nintendo because they essentially created the console market again after, the Atari failure. And they always went, let's say diagonally. They didn't always go with the herd. They were not trying to outcompete Microsoft and Sony on we've got bigger processors, bigger GPUs, but it's the same game across all these consoles. So with the Wii, they went down the path of saying, hey, let's bring in some of this motion stuff, and they hit large segments of the population that weren't core gamers.
Mm-hmm.
But, they hit schools, they hit, retirement homes, all that sort of thing.
But that's a big market that nobody's paying attention to, right? Besides Nintendo, really.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they don't buy a lot. You get 1-2 games out of them. That's the best you can do. Now, with the Wii U, this is something that, I remember meeting with Comcast. It must have been 4 or 5 years ago now. And their CTO was saying that their focus is the second screen, and how everything they're trying to figure out is you're watching TV, but you've got another screen in front of you. And back then it could have been a PC or a phone. Now it's much more likely to be a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were trying to figure that out. And, if you look at the timeline, that's probably the same thing that Nintendo was thinking about is people are having these second screen experiences. Maybe there's a way we can innovate by doing that. We use, low-cost components. Maybe there's a different way here. And, I've heard from some people that, yep, some of the games are fun. They put out some okay stuff. But they didn't capture a unique market. They didn't get sort of the core gamers who left after the GameCube to come back.
And I almost feel like
So
with the
there-
second screen stuff, like I almost feel like core gamers would be more open to adopt that sort of. I don't have a second screen experience. Like we talk about games constantly, and I don't really do that kind of thing. So I can't imagine the demographic that they go after would wrap their heads around that so much. So
yeah, you know, I think it was the thing of it would be cool. You kind of get a tablet for free when you get the Wii, and maybe that would attract some people. Not quite there. I mean, the 3DS is still killing it.
yeah,
Right? They sold more 3DSs in last year than Xbox or PS3, 4. So the 3DS is still good. And the question is does Nintendo sort of bow out of the hardware market? Because the Wii was a massive investment, right? Any of these hardware projects are really expensive to start off. So do they back out from that and say, okay, look, we're going to own handhelds, and we're going to do more software. We're going to use, you know, the IP that we own, you know, the Marios, the Zeldas, and that's what we're going to use. And we're going to spread those to other platforms.
Yeah, do you see them really? Do you see them doing that? Do you see Nintendo not making a console one day? That'd be an odd day when Nintendo does not actually have a console. Do you think it's possible though?
I think it's entirely possible. I mean, look at, Nokia, BlackBerry. All of these guys, Sega used to build big arcade machines, right? These things. All of these guys, when they hit trouble, hardware is such an expensive business that part of you says, well, okay, you know, so we didn't win on hardware, but our software is really good. And since you can make software do almost anything, it's really easy to convince your board and the management team that, hey, let's focus on this software because it's good. And they do okay. They survive as a fraction of the company they actually were. But, you know, I think there's a chance there that if, and I haven't seen their financials, and maybe somebody who's a stock analyst takes a close look at it, but it could hit them hard enough to cause some problems. I mean, think about Sony and Microsoft. They both have really large, you know, sort of parent organizations who are doing a whole bunch of other things that are making the money. Nintendo's a game company.
They're a game company. And their biggest hits, I guess, were probably, I'm just going to ballpark it and say Animal Crossing, Pokemon, and Zelda.
Yeah.
And
Animal Crossing sold a ton of 3DSs this summer, right?
Yeah.
It's just all sorts of people who had given up on that sort of thing. Animal Crossing, all right, I'm going back.
Be interesting to see if they just totally drop the console. Who knows? All right, next up, this one in from Hawaiian Shirt. Says, hey, Monty, I see CPAs listed at some studios, but what type of role would a CFA finance candidate fill at a dev studio? Maybe a liaison to a VC firm? Question mark.
Yeah, the liaison to VC firms typically is the CEO, and for the good ones, other members of the management team. So, you know, the VCs are trying to get really close to the management team, and they don't really have finance questions, right? Like, I mean, they can glance at your balance sheet and your cash flow, and they can see everything they want to see. It's not that complex. You know, I think when you get into things like international business and how are we going to do currency hedges? So, you know, our company is based in the U.S. We're selling a whole bunch of stuff in Turkey. Do we pull our money out of Turkey? Do we hold some there? All that sort of side of finance. I'm sure some of the larger guys get into that. There's probably a lot of stuff around business development deals in esports these days where, you know, you're actually putting together fairly complex models with lots of moving parts, and it's not strictly an accounting question. You know, so I think there's lots of areas like that. Essentially, if you look at what any CFA would do for most companies, there's probably, you know, 60-70% overlap with what a game company needs to do. So, you know, go down that path and take a look at it. But, geez, you remember when Iceland blew up, CCP was making most of their money in US dollars. So they had a whole set of issues about, you know, how much do they repatriate? How do they do it? They had problems with staffing. You know, they're suddenly paying their staff in a currency that's been devalued massively, and a lot of their staff was international. It was, looking comparatively and saying, wait a minute, I'm now making a trivial amount of money. So they started paying staff partially in US dollars. All of these things take a lot of work to sort out.
Hey, talk about currencies for a second. Totally digressing here, but what's your take on Bitcoin and how it might affect the gaming market? What do you think? I've been paying more and more attention to it. I've been reading throughout the entire holiday. I've been reading a ton about it. I'm fascinated by it, and I'm amazed at actually. I mean, I heard about it sometime in like maybe late 2011, 2012, and I really thought it was like, oh, this is some internet highbrow, anti-establishment anarchist thing, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if you're paying, but November, December of last year, things really started getting interesting, and it shot up, and all these companies started coming forward and saying, Overstock's taking it, Target's dabbling in it, and I'm like, I wonder whether this is going to have an effect on the gaming industry, and if you'll see like these kind of companies start accepting it as well.
Well, and you could see gold sellers and things like that going in a whole different direction. I mean, Bitcoin's interesting in that, the element of not being traceable opens up online gambling and all sorts of things like that where the government gets in your face. I don't think it becomes mainstream in the near term, let's say next 5 years, for a couple of reasons. One is it is a really good way to launder money, and eventually the government will figure that out, and that they'll make life a lot harder. The other thing is there's, for the average person, like even for me who's fairly techie, you don't know what you're putting your trust in, right? When you have a dollar bill, you know what you're putting your trust in. When you've got a pound note or a euro, you're putting your trust in a certain thing. When you've got a Bitcoin, what was that thing? Somebody showed it on CNBC, and somebody stole the number and took the Bitcoin. Yeah. So stuff like that, the level of complexity that you're going to need will keep it out of the mainstream. And so, I think the people who will do things with it are people who want a press release to get some traction. So, gee, what's going on? Nothing. All right. Well, let's put out something about Bitcoin. That'll get picked up.
I'll just say I just opened my account and I'm looking at it extensely. It's super interesting. I think it's really interesting. I'm fascinated by it. I just can't believe the traction.
Just don't put your retirement in there.
No, you definitely wouldn't bet the house on it. But I just find it really interesting that a lot of companies are actually endorsing it and getting behind it. You can buy a Tesla with Bitcoin. I think you can walk into Tesla and be like, hey, here's 10 coins, give me a car.
Yeah, but so the question there is, Tesla, so just think about the math there. Tesla doesn't pay its suppliers in Bitcoin. It doesn't pay its employees in Bitcoin. So Tesla has to dump that Bitcoin back into the market.
The second they get it. Oh, yeah, they're all getting it the second it happens, until their suppliers accept it.
All of that sort of stuff, it makes it an inherently unstable currency. And again, if you have a currency that fluctuates, 30, 40%, you don't keep your money in it. It's in the 90s in Brazil, they used to put their money into a foreign currency overnight so it didn't lose value while they slept. All right?
That's pretty much like what the situation is with Bitcoin.
And I think that's what's going to hold it back. If it settles down and it becomes something solid, I mean, look at Linden Lab, right? With the Linden dollars, they did a lot of things to stabilize how much money went in and out. And the first time I actually got money out of Second Life, I was surprised as hell.
You're like, wow, this really works.
And that's great, but it wasn't a currency that was going to go anywhere. So Bitcoin, maybe not in the next 5 years.
All right, next up, this one from Aaron. Aaron says, will PC games like League of Legends and World of Warcraft need to shift to Steam OS and OS X in order to stay profitable in the declining desktop market?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things in there that is interesting. One is declining desktop market. And I looked around at some stats and things, and PC sales are declining, and that's because people are using, Mac sales are going up, yes, but people are using tablets and Chromebooks and things like that. They're replacing essentially what their PC purchase was.
Mm-hmm.
But gamers are still buying PCs, and they're buying, more and more complex rigs. They're putting together some amazing stuff. Go on Reddit and look at r/battle stations. Some of the stuff people have done is just amazing. So you'll see the high end really go that way. I know NVIDIA is focusing very much on the desktop market because they got squeezed out of both of the consoles. So, it's make or break for them that they really want the PC desktop market to go somewhere. So you've got that sort of stuff going on for sure. What you will see is more and more companies supporting OS X because the tools support it. And so, if you build in Unity, of course you can support both. When I look at a game on Steam, and it's available on PC and Mac, odds are it was written in Unity.
Mm-hmm.
So the tool sets make it easier. It used to be very complex to do something on both sides, and you'd have companies who specialized in porting and writing the translation layers and that. Big pain in the neck. Now, a lot easier to do. SteamOS is still new. I'm sure if it gets any traction, Unity will support it, or if Steam has any sense, they'll throw some money Unity's way, which, I don't know if that was public. Other device manufacturers have done that, where they've essentially paid Unity to support their platform, which makes it easy to move content back and forth. So those sorts of things will start to happen. And, if you've got a game and you've sold, several 100,000 units on PC, and you can sell very easily another 20,000 on Mac, that's something you grab. It's easy to do. You take it. If it's going to take you any real effort, and, I hear this from people who try and sell sometimes inside of Amazon store, App Store on the Kindle, or Windows OS still, is there's not enough traction there to actually make real money. So even though the effort of porting isn't hard, you still have the marketing and support things that tie you up.
All right, next up we got some questions about Android and some few others, but really quick I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Audible. If you guys have not checked out the Audible service, I want you to check it out free for 30 days, and I want to hook you guys up with a free audiobook. All you have to do is go over to audible.com/GameBreaker, use that URL, sign up today, download the app to your iOS or your Android device, and pick your free book and get to go. And they got tons of, I always like to bring up the World of Warcraft section. They got a bunch of great World of Warcraft books if you're a fan. There's tons of other fantasy as well, but some of these are just great. You should check them out. Dawn of the Aspects, newest one on the list here. Fantastic. Just got added in last November there, so check it out. World of Warcraft, Dawn of the Aspects could be one of the free books that you choose. But check it out today. If you like the service, you sign up, monthly subscription fee. You get free tokens towards books. I think I'm on the subscription fee of like 2 books a month, something like that. So you pay a few bucks, get some tokens. I love it. I've been a fan of Audible for years and years and years. Love it, love it, love it. So really happy to have these guys on as sponsors. Just go to audible.com/GameBreaker and sign up for your free audiobook. All right, so Ryan's up next with a question pertaining to iOS and Android. It says Android keeps owning the mobile market, but devs say build for iOS first. Why is that?
Yeah, so if you look at sort of handset sales or devices in market, Android, substantially more than iOS. If you look at revenue per device, iOS is significantly higher, and the question is why. So there's a few reasons. One is
it's the store, isn't it? Isn't a big part of it the store?
Part of it's the store and the education. So Apple got you to buy music with your iPod and all of that, and they own the market with the iPod, right? And think when iTunes came out, it was all about the music. That's what made it really take off. So they've got the trust of a lot of people who've set up a payment system with it. With a number of the Android devices, when you get it, you have to set up a completely new payment system, which you hadn't done before. That's a hurdle for a lot of people. In fact, in business, anytime you try and get somebody to create a new account and give you financial information, pain in the neck. You've got significant drop off. So one is they don't have as many people set up to pay. Second part of it is the devices are so varied. I mean, I've got a Google Nexus 7, I've got a Kindle Fire, and it just blows my mind when I look at an Android app and it says, yes, this is compatible with all of your devices. Well, why the hell wouldn't it be? Like, why would you show me something that isn't? So there's a level of confusion and complexity around these Android devices. And then for some of them, the aspect ratio is different. And so games look different on different things. They don't look as good. All of that stuff, it's a pain in the neck for the game developer to put in the code to handle all those differences. And then finally is, in fact, the best guy I work with. He's a big Android guy and all of that. And I said, look, I'd rather pay for my own Apple phone than use Android. And we'd go back and forth for a while. And one day in a meeting, I look over at him. He's downloading a virus checker for his phone.
What?
Dang, here fell off my chair laughing at him. And it's like, what? He goes, well, all right, right there, that's it. So you get malware, you get a lot of theft. You put your game up and they will steal it and put it up on a Chinese server. They'll start selling it through stores, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's kind of the Wild West on Android. And Android sort of made the promise of we're going to be free, we're going to be open, everybody can do whatever they want, we're not like big bad Apple. Well, you know what? It's kind of like Bitcoin. Give me a big monolith I can trust and it's going to do things stably. That's all I want out of a phone these days. I mean,
it's kind of similar to Windows in that sense, isn't it? I mean, really, all the different drivers, all the different configurations, all the different this, and it makes a big hurdle for a lot of people.
And you spend a lot less time.
How has Google been with their developers? I know when Apple really seemed to get it right, because I have a couple of Apple developer friends. Part of it was they really finally had learned to embrace the developer, like in a way that you hadn't really seen before. Before that, these companies would charge developers like thousands upon thousands of dollars for licenses and all this stuff. And Apple finally figured out and said, no, we need to encourage these guys to create stuff on our platform. Has Google gotten behind their developers like that?
Google's developer support is relatively decent. The big thing for them has been they have to force control. So Google Play, the Play Store, that whole structure and having people go through it gives them a little more stability, confidence, call it whatever you will. So it's easy enough for the developers. There's good support and good tool sets out there. But, I said I had a Kindle Fire. Well, on the Kindle Fire, all the things I bought on my Nexus 7s for the Google Play Store, I can't have on this. Now, it's the same OS. Right. Why can't I? Well, if I root my Fire, I can, come on. It's a tablet, I don't want to do that stuff. And then Amazon, for whatever reason, doesn't have a native app for Google Maps. They don't have a native YouTube app. So some really basic things end up missing. And it's a fragmented, messy market. And that's what Google really has to fix. They need to get the user base to trust them.
Hopefully they will. Monty Sharma, follow him on Twitter at Monster, MONTSTER 27. And, of course, if you have a question for Monty, you can send it to monty@gamebreaker.tv. That is the email address to use, monty@gamebreaker.tv. You can follow me at Gary Gann and follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV. Make sure to come over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/GameBreakerTV. And we do the show every single Tuesday at 3 Pacific. So come on over for the live show. It's always a good time. Monty, always a pleasure. Good to see you. And we'll see you next week for some more Game Biz.
All right. See you next week there.